How's it going, everybody? Welcome to episode 12 of Schmoedown Central. I'm your host, Brad Thomas, breaking down the week that was in the movie trivia Schmoedown. We had two matches this week coming off of the heels of the free-for-all this past Friday, but we kicked it off with some two new-coming teams on Tuesday, so let's see how they did in their first go. So like I said, two newcomers, the Scream Queens versus the Gardenhosers. The Gardenhosers were comprised of Thomas, Ian, Nicholas, and Matt Black, taking on the Scream Queens, who had Haleigh, Foutch, and Kalyn, Corrigan. Haleigh Foutch, of course, making her debut this past Friday in the free-for-all. In round one, we saw one team take control of this match, and that was the Scream Queens, although Haleigh on question 2 says mobster instead of gangster. Kind of a technicality. I don't know if I agree with the ruling on the floor, but it was what it was. And the lead did change multiple times throughout this until, of course, the Scream Queens took a solid lead. On question 7, Thomas using his repeat a little bit too late, and on question 8, Matt doing the exact same thing. A really unfortunate misstep for them, and it could have been pivotal in the long run. And after round 1, the Scream Queens were leading 10-6. Round number 2, the Scream Queens were up first. They end up spinning the category of Christopher Nolan. They end up sticking with this category. Potentially not a wise move, though. They only go 1 for 6 and get a possible 2 out of 12 points. Not to mention giving up a 1-point steal on the first question, the second question, and then giving up a 2-point steal on question number 3, and then another 1-point steal on question 6. This is potentially one of the most steals we've seen in a single round. Things were not looking good for the Scream Queens, so the Gardenhosers could take advantage of this with their spin. They end up spinning Will Smith movies. They stick with that, and they go 3 for 6, possible 4 out of 12 points, again leaving a lot of points on the table. And there also was, again, steals on question 1 and question 2, but it was enough for the Gardenhosers to take a lead of 15-14 heading into round number 3. Scream Queens were up first. Haleigh Foutch goes up with the scores and soundtracks category. She gets that one correct, and the Gardenhosers just need to swing it back and give the Scream Queens a little bit of pressure. Question 1, Thomas was up. He ends up getting Sandra Bullock movies, and he gets that question wrong. Matt was up next with romantic comedies. Again, couldn't come up with the correct answers, gets that one incorrect. Question 3, they had to come together to avoid the loss with the category of disaster movies, and unfortunately could not come up with the correct answer, couldn't come up with Gina Rodriguez's name, and the Scream Queens win this one 16-15. Scream Queens improved to 1-0. They go 12 for 23 for 52% for questions they were personally asked, plus 2 steals. Meanwhile, the Gardenhosers fall to 0-1. They go 9 for 25 as a team for questions they were personally asked for 36%, plus 4 steals, one of them being, of course, a 2-point steal. As for individually, Haleigh Foutch led things with 6 for 9 for 67%. Kalyn went 5 for 8 for 63%. On the other hand, the Gardenhosers not coming up too hot. Thomas only goes 4 for 9 for 44%. And unfortunately, Matt going only 2 for 9 for 22%. Lots happening pre-game and post-game, but the Scream Queens, they want to go up against some of the top teams. They want the Shirewolves, fellow lady team, of course. That'd be great to see. Or even the Wildberries. We'll have to see what their future holds, even though they had that rough second round. We'll see what happens. As for the Gardenhosers, well, they want to go up against potentially the Real Rejects, the Kingsmen. They want one of those lower echelon teams just to go up and test their skills against things. They know what type of team they are, and they just want to have fun. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do and have a lot of fun with that. And of course, pre-game, we had Mike Kalinowski confronting Brianne Chandler, basically trying to weasel his way in, ask about getting a potential title shot for the Inner Geekdom League. We'll see if that comes to fruition. And then, of course, post-game, we have both Marc and Jason Inman talking some trash to one another. Marc wants that belt. We'll have to see if he can do that next week. It'll be very interesting to see. On Friday, we had Andreyko taking on Ben Bateman, the boss. Ben Bateman coming in with a record of 1-1 with 1 knockout, and Andreyko coming into this one with a record of 2-2, the number 10 ranked contender. Round number 1 was a very heated, well-fought match. Andreyko and Ben Bateman both going 7 for 8. But Marc could have potentially had that perfect round had he spelled Sally Hawkins' name correct. Unfortunately, a little error there. Again, he knew the answer, just couldn't quite come up with the correct spelling. Round number 2, Marc was up first. He ends up getting Spinner's Choice, and he actually chooses the musical category, and it was a strong and smart decision for Andreyko. He goes 4 for 4, gets a possible 7 out of 8 points in that round. A very dominant second round for Andreyko. Bateman had a lot of ground to make up, down 14-7, but he ends up getting spinner's choice and chooses, of course, a big strength of his in action adventure. But it didn't work out all in his favor. He only goes 2 for 4, gets a possible forward of 8 points in this round, leaving points on the board and also giving a 2-point steal on question number 1. You can see Ben not wanting to go to that multiple choice, wanting to make up that ground, but potentially an error in judgment on Ben's part in this match, as it led to a 16-11 lead for Marc Andreyko heading into round number 3. Bateman up first in this round for question number 1, gets the scores and soundtracks category, couldn't come up with the correct answer there. Question 2 in Pixar, unfortunately, again, gets that one incorrect. Question 3, though, gets the Oscar category, a category that Bateman has been surprisingly strong in, and he ends up getting that one correct, sending it back to Marc Andreyko and avoiding that TKO. Marc Andreyko just needed to hit one question correct. First question in Denzel Washington movies, gets the Chloe Grace Moretz answer correct, and Marc Andreyko wins this by a score of 18-16. This improves Marc's record to 3-2, meanwhile Bateman falling to 1-2. Marc Andreyko, a solid game for him, goes 12 for 13 for 92%, add in that 1 steal for 2 points, and a very impressive outing for Marc Andreyko. As for Bateman, not a bad game, just not as good as Marc Andreyko's. He goes 10 for 15 for 67%, and like I said, not a bad game, but just not as good as Marc Andreyko. So we'll have to see what this does for Marc Andreyko. Definitely puts him into the contention race as he goes ahead for this title. We'll have to see if he can do that in the near future. As for Bateman, well, we'll have to see what it means for him. Again, he falls to a losing record at the moment, but he still wants that Scott Mance match, so we'll have to see what happens there. And of course, pre-game, we had Ken Napzok checking out what Brienne was up to, and he wants that title shot as well from Brienne. We'll have to see what happens there. He wants that Star Wars belt, but of course, Ken's got that number 1 contender spot shot coming up at the live event in June, so we'll have to see what happens there. And of course, Andrew Guy coming in, and he just wants to talk with Clark Wolf, so we'll have to see what happens there. Very amusing point there, and he just wants to talk, so we'll have to see what happens. And of course, they're taking on the Shire Wolves as well, so we'll have to see what happens at the live event with Team Action and the Shire Wolves. Next week on the Schmoedown, we got 2 giant matches. The Inner Geekdom Championship happening on Tuesday. Jason Inman defending his title against Mark Donica. Should be a heated match. My money's on Inman, but who knows what can happen if they get the wrong type of spin. But I just think Inman is the more well-rounded competitor, so we'll have to see what happens there. As for on April 27th, we got Clark Wolf taking on Mike Kalinowski, number 1 contender match. So it'll be a heated match. Clark, of course, using this from Emma Fife's Manager Bowl win and choosing to take on Mike Kalinowski. It should be a good match. I think Clark can pull up the victory, but if Mike Kalinowski comes in and uses his KO nickname to his advantage and potentially getting a knockout, we'll have to see what happens there. But again, I'm going to edge out and say Clark will get the victory, but it'll be a very close, down to the last question type of match. As for our play of the week, that's got to go to Marc Andreyko in his round number 2. Goes 4 for 4, 7 out of 8 possible points. He almost had that 2-pointer again at the end to maybe get the complete 8 points in that round, but a very impressive showing from Marc Andreyko in round number 2 and just solidified that lead for him heading into round 3. As for our misplay of the week, that's going to go to the Scream Queens in round 2. Choosing Christopher Nolan and only getting 1 out of 6 correct and possible 2 out of 12 points, and giving up 4 steals, of course, one of those being a 2-point steal, was a big crucial mistake. They end up getting the victory, but not in the dominating fashion they would have liked to have had. Definite mistake by the Scream Queens by picking that category, and just, again, some of those answers were on the tip of their tongue and then just choosing the wrong multiple choice, just couldn't quite come up with the correct answer. But our player of the week, that's got to be Marc Andreyko. Again, impressive showing from him, going 12 for 13 for 92%, plus, of course, the 1 2-point steal, which was very impressive showing from him. One of the best games we've seen this season, and just shows how strong of a competitor Marc Andreyko is, and definitely puts him back into the title contention race. So that does it for this episode of Schmoedown Central. Again, be sure to like and comment in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts on this episode, some of the matches from this past week, and of course the predictions for next week. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comment section below. Again, follow me on Twitter at 94BradThomas or at Schmoedown Central to keep up to date with everything going on in the world of Schmoedown Central, and of course the Schmoedown in general. Love to see your thoughts there as well. And that'll do it. I might not be here next week, unfortunately, to give you guys an episode because I will be away on vacation in Disneyland, actually. So I'll maybe try to get a little quick little episode, maybe just some quick initial thoughts just on my phone or something like that if I have time to. But If not, that is it for this week and potentially next week, but I will definitely be back the following week to give a full update on those week's matches. So that is it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you guys all later on Schmoedown Central.